The Iran's Air Force is comprised of very outdated airframes, including its arsenal of 40-year-old F-14 Tomcats, F-5 Tigers, and F-4 Phantoms. These jets, largely retired by the U.S. and its other importers, remain a mainstay of the Iranian Air Force, while Iran's ability to maintain and even improve these aging airframes is remarkable. Its lack of a stealth fighter has troubled the regime. In an attempt to compensate for its underdeveloped, aging fleet and appear more formidable, Iran unveiled its own version of a stealth fighter several years ago. The Qaher Conqueror 313's two public appearances in the last decade confirmed the stealth fighter was nothing more than a mirage crafted for propaganda purposes. The jet features hard edges, and those distinctive edges and angle of the US F-22 and the twin-tail shape much similar to that of the F-35 Lightning II. The aviationist concluded, the Q313 has large, fixed canards, with the external section of the little wings canted downward. The aircraft spots a bizarre cockpit, armed with instruments that aren't of the 5th-gen era and too basic. The front panel lacks any wirings, with instruments similar to those equipping small private plane. Fake stealth aircraft. Billed as the country's most advanced indigenous fighter jet, Qaher 313 is so small that there literally isn't enough space under its wings for the bombs and missiles that the country claimed it could carry. It doesn't even have a weapons bay. The cockpit is so small that it can't accommodate a normal pilot in the ejection seat. The aviation experts say it's not normal to have a fighter jet where the pilot's knees rise above the side borders of the cockpit and his helmet protrudes beyond the ejection seat's head pad. Iran tried to reinforce confidence in the world community by releasing a video showing the fighter jet flying, which was busted as being an absurd Photoshop within hours. The country's attempts to bamboozle its rivals with such a crude piece of fraud failed badly, and experts wondered how Iran could present such a farce and not be exposed. Despite being universally mocked as a falsification, Iran continued to assert that its newest fighter jet was real and already flying. The country's government insisted the aircraft was even superior to Lockheed Martin F-22 Raptor and the F-35 Joint Strike Fighter and would be operational soon. Development. According to Iranian government sources, the F-313 Qaher was designed and is indigenously produced in Iran by the Iran Aviation Industries Organization, IAIO, a division of the Ministry of Defense and IRIAF. The project manager is Hassan Parvana. Qaher has a payload capacity of carrying two 2,000-pound, 910 kilograms bombs, or greater number of smaller smart guided missiles, or at least 6 air-to-air missiles in the category of the PL-12. The Qaher 313 could be powered by reverse-engineered variants of the General Electric J-85 turbojet that Iran is known to have in its possession. Iran has General Electric J-85S as well as a dozen other jet engines as a result of old Northrop F-5s and other American aircraft in its inventory from pre-1979 as well as newer engines from Russia and China. On February 10, 2013, the Iranian Minister of Defense said the claims made by the foreign media about the project are inaccurate and that the engine used by the design had been successfully tested. He also confirmed that the aircraft had not yet been flown, but that taxi and flight tests will occur in the near future. On March 5, 2017, Iranian Defense Minister Brigadier General Hossein Dagan stated that the Qaher 313 was ready for flight testing. It was described by the Fars news agency as a logistic aircraft for short distances and a light fighter jet used for military and training operations. On April 15, 2017, the prototype Qaher 313 conducted taxi tests. This prototype, designated 08, introduced a number of changes over the models previously showcased, most notably an enlarged cockpit, dual jet exhausts, and a FLIR turret in the nose. The Qaher, a scale model of the Conqueror built shortly after its debut, provided additional insight into the jet's makeup. The model's pattern maker Alfred Wong discovered that they actually cut up an old MiG-17's wings for it. The wings have a very distinctive plane shape. Despite the many questionable components of the Qaher 313's design, Iran's leadership has maintained the reality of its beloved 5th-generation stealth fighter. The regime has even claimed the airframe is superior to the F-22 Raptor and the F-35 Joint Strike Fighter. However, the fighter never materialized. A similar story played out when Iran unveiled its indigenous Qaher fighter jet a few years later in 2018. U.S. aviation experts immediately dismissed the Qaher as a weak replica of a very old American jet designed in the 70s. Iran's fake displays of aircraft development lent to its domestic propaganda efforts. The world will likely witness the country's third showcase of a stealth fighter in the future. Hollywood sheen. Unnamed Israeli experts say the indigenous fighter jet Iran presented on February 2nd is nothing more than a very sleek plastic model. The canopy appears to be constructed of basic plastic. The air intakes are unusually small, and the whole impression is of some plastic parts pasted on an old flying platform. One expert says the cockpit and ejection seat seem real, but the Qaher 313 displayed seemed too small to be a capable fighter. The Times of Israel labeled the aircraft a hoax. Israeli aeronautics expert Tal Inbar claimed it's not a plane, because that's not how a real plane looks. Iran doesn't have the ability to build planes. Plain and simple. Military aviation journalist David Sensiati stated that the aircraft has implausible aerodynamics, and Hollywood sheen claimed that it is too small to be a real fighter jet and that the cockpit was too simple and was similar to those equipping small private planes. One Israeli aerospace engineer speaking anonymously to the Times of Israel indicated that while the aircraft displayed was obviously not a flying example, it did show advanced stealth features and that the design could be capable of high maneuverability. He stated that while the aircraft lacked bomb-carrying provisions, it could be an effective interceptor. He concluded, Iran needs a defensive interceptor that gives them the element of surprise, and it is big enough to carry real air-to-air missiles.